Lions Nation, good afternoon. I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday. Wishing everyone a week filled with good health, success, and, of course, plenty of excitement for our Detroit Lions. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already part of our community, and drop a comment below with Go Lions. I want to know where you're watching from and what your expectations are for this season. Now, without wasting any time, let's get straight to the news because there's a lot happening in Detroit. The Detroit Lions have made another move just as training camp is getting underway. But while one addition brings experience and leadership to the roster, the latest injury developments have suddenly created serious questions that nobody wanted to be talking about at this stage of the offseason. What should have been a period filled with excitement has quickly turned into a wait-and-see situation for several important players, and every practice from this point forward is going to matter even more. Let's start with the newest addition to Detroit's roster because the organization has officially added veteran linebacker Troy Reeder, a player who entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent out of Delaware in 2019. Reeder is best known for spending 6 of his first 7 professional seasons with the Los Angeles Rams, where he became part of a Super Bowl winning team. While this signing may not generate massive headlines across the league, it perfectly fits the type of player the Lions have consistently valued under their current leadership. Reeder has built his NFL career as a dependable special teams contributor while also serving as a reliable rotational linebacker whenever his number has been called. Last season, he recorded 17 solo tackles, 25 total tackles, defended 2 passes, and appeared in all 17 games. Availability has always been one of his strongest qualities, and that reliability is exactly what Detroit appears to be adding to its linebacker room. What makes this signing even more interesting isn't simply the statistics. According to comments from his defensive coach, Reeder earned trust because of his consistency and his understanding of the defensive system. His coach described him as someone who could seamlessly step into the lineup if injuries occurred, emphasizing that everyone in the building trusted him to do his job without hesitation. But perhaps the biggest compliment wasn't about his play on Sundays, it was about his influence behind the scenes. The coaching staff highlighted that Reeder has naturally embraced a mentorship role with younger linebackers, almost functioning as an assistant linebackers coach inside the meeting room. He's also been recognized as a special teams captain and someone already thinking about coaching after his playing career ends. That kind of leadership is something the Lions have repeatedly valued, especially when building depth throughout the roster. When you look at Detroit's current linebacker group, bringing in an experienced veteran capable of helping develop younger players while contributing on special teams makes plenty of sense. This isn't a signing expected to transform the defense overnight, but it strengthens the roster in an important way by adding experience, professionalism, and another dependable option if injuries become an issue during the season. Unfortunately, that brings us to the bigger story surrounding the beginning of training camp. The Lions have officially placed 3 players on the physically unable to perform list ahead of camp: Kerby Joseph, Brian Branch, and Tyler Conklin. The inclusion of Brian Branch wasn't entirely unexpected, but seeing both Kerby Joseph and Tyler Conklin on the list immediately raised concerns. Before this announcement, there had been optimism surrounding Joseph's condition, making the news particularly surprising. It's important to point out that being placed on the PUP list at the start of training camp does not automatically mean a player will miss significant time. Every year, several players begin camp on the list only to return shortly afterward once the medical staff clears them. At this point, there is still uncertainty regarding both Joseph and Conklin because no timetable has been established. Still, losing valuable practice time is never ideal, especially for one of the team's defensive leaders. What makes the Kerby Joseph situation even more confusing is what has happened over the past several days. Recently, Joseph shared an update on social media saying that his faith remained strong. He explained that he was able to walk again, that he was no longer dealing with intense pain, and encouraged fans to pray for him, saying that if people wanted to know whether he would play this season, they should ask God and continue sending prayers. Those comments naturally left plenty of room for interpretation. On one hand, hearing that he is walking and no longer experiencing severe pain sounds encouraging. On the other hand, asking fans for prayers while being placed on the PUP list creates uncertainty about exactly where his recovery stands. Without official clarification from the organization or the medical staff, there simply isn't enough verified information to draw firm conclusions. That's why, at least for now, patience becomes the only realistic approach. Players often remain optimistic about their own recoveries, while teams take a much more cautious path before allowing them back onto the field. Until Detroit provides additional updates, speculation won't change anything. From the Lions' perspective, the timing couldn't be worse. The defense was already entering training camp with several important important questions, and now one of its starting safeties is unavailable to begin practices. Every missed rep during camp matters, particularly when the coaching staff is evaluating chemistry, communication, and position battles throughout the secondary. Instead of beginning camp with every starter available, Detroit now enters one of the most important periods of the offseason, needing answers about the health of multiple key contributors, while also relying on depth players to take advantage of additional opportunities. Do you believe Kerby Joseph will be back on the field sooner rather than later? Or do you think this situation is more concerning than the team has let on? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this story could end up becoming one of the biggest developments of the entire training camp. The uncertainty surrounding Kerby Joseph naturally shifts the spotlight toward the rest of the secondary, because if Detroit is missing key contributors early in camp, this becomes a huge opportunity for other defensive backs to prove they deserve meaningful snaps once the regular season begins. Training camp isn't just about preparing the starters anymore, it's about finding out which players can be trusted if injuries continue to impact the roster. With both Kerby Joseph and Brian Branch unavailable to begin camp, every practice rep suddenly carries much more value. The coaching staff now has an opportunity to evaluate the depth behind them, and those players know exactly what is at stake. This is the time of year when careers can change. A strong camp can elevate someone up the depth chart, while missed opportunities can quickly be forgotten once the starters return. The biggest question surrounding this defense isn't limited to one position either. There are several areas the Lions need to evaluate before week 1 arrives, and training camp will provide the first real answers. One area that continues to attract attention is the defensive front opposite Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions know what Hutchinson brings to the field, but the coaching staff still needs to determine who will consistently generate pressure alongside him. There are multiple names competing for that role, and every practice becomes another chance to separate themselves. DJ Wonnum enters camp with NFL experience after arriving as a free agent, giving Detroit a good understanding of what his ceiling can be. Derek Moore, meanwhile, represents a completely different situation. As a rookie, expectations naturally have to remain realistic. Development takes time, especially at one of the most demanding positions in football. Rather than expecting immediate production or judging him based on early statistics, the focus during training camp will be on his growth, learning the defensive scheme, adapting to the speed of the NFL, improving technique, and becoming more comfortable with every practice are all part of the process. That's why training camp is so valuable. It allows young players to build confidence before meaningful games begin. Even with those questions at edge rusher, there's another position group creating even more discussion. The secondary remains the biggest question mark on Detroit's roster entering camp. There are simply too many unknowns right now. Health concerns have already affected multiple players, and now the Lions need others to step forward. One of the players drawing attention is DJ Reed, who is expected to take on a significant role in the defensive backfield. The opportunity in front of him is enormous, especially considering the current situation surrounding the secondary. If Reed performs at the level Detroit expects, it could stabilize a unit that has suddenly become one of the biggest storylines of training camp. But until practices begin in full pads, nobody truly knows how everything will come together. Fortunately, the wait won't be very long. Training camp provides the first opportunity to see these position battles develop in real time. Once players put the pads on, evaluations become much more meaningful than off-season workouts. Coaches can finally assess communication, physicality, technique, and consistency under football conditions instead of controlled off-season sessions. Interestingly, despite some concerns elsewhere on the roster, there is one area where confidence remains extremely high: the offensive line. There has been plenty of discussion about Penei Sewell preparing to play on the left side, and the All-Pro tackle recently addressed that transition. According to Sewell, the preparation hasn't required changing everything he does. Instead, he explained that much of his training has remained the same, with the primary adjustment being technique as he flips sides. He also admitted that returning to the left side has felt more comfortable than he initially expected, adding that each day is about continuing to build on that foundation and refining the details. Those comments should give Lions fans confidence. Rather than expressing uncertainty, Sewell spoke as someone focused on mastering every detail of the transition. The emphasis wasn't on overcoming major obstacles, but on putting in extra work to perfect the necessary techniques. That confidence matters because the Lions are counting on their offensive line to remain remain one of the strengths of the team. The bigger concern isn't whether Sewell can handle the move. It's how the entire offensive line develops chemistry together. Building continuity across the unit takes time, especially as players adjust to new responsibilities. Communication, timing, and trust are all developed through repetitions during training camp, and those elements often become just as important as individual talent. If that chemistry develops the way Detroit hopes, the offensive line could once again become one of the team's biggest advantages heading into the season. At the same time, everything continues to circle back to the health of the roster. The Lions have talented players throughout the lineup, but training camp will ultimately be about answering questions that simply cannot be answered until everyone gets on the practice field. Can the secondary overcome its early injury concerns? Will the depth players take advantage of their opportunities? Who emerges opposite Aiden Hutchinson? And how quickly can Detroit build continuity before the regular season begins? Those answers will define the weeks ahead, and every practice from this point forward becomes another important step toward finding them.